The rug is never just a rug. Every piece of furniture in the room is in a relationship with it. Pull it out and replace it with one that's 18 inches smaller in each direction, and the room you've lived in for 10 years becomes a different room. The sofa hasn't moved, the chairs haven't moved. The distance between them is identical. But the room has lost something that took you a long time to build, and you won't be able to say exactly what it is until you've stared at it for a while. What you're looking at is the geometry of the room. Come apart. Most decisions in a room are additive. A lamp goes in a corner, a painting goes on a wall. Each one adds something without fundamentally reorganizing what's already there. A rug doesn't work that way. The rug is a ground plane, and everything placed on or near it enters into a spatial relationship with it, and through it, with everything else. A sofa that sits entirely off the rug is in a different room than a sofa whose front legs rest on it. Not a different arrangement, a different room. The rug defines where one space ends and another begins. Without one, or with one that's too small to do that work, the furniture occupies the same floor, but doesn't occupy the same space. There's a difference. I've paid close attention to the size error for years because it's the most consistent mistake in otherwise careful rooms. The rug is too small, almost always when a room doesn't quite cohere, when the seating arrangement looks assembled rather than settled. The rug is floating 3 inches from the feet of everything around it, doing the work of a centerpiece rather than a foundation. The front legs of the sofa are off it. The armchairs hover at its edge, and the room reads as a collection of furniture that happens to be near each other rather than a grouping that belongs together. The fix isn't complicated. It's just expensive and slightly frightening because the rug that actually works in that room is always larger than feels reasonable when you're looking at it rolled up. The rule that holds across almost every room type. At minimum, the front legs of every major piece in the grouping should rest on the rug. Ideally, the anchor pieces and the sofa, the primary chairs, sit entirely on it, and the rug should extend 6 to 8 inches beyond the outer edges of the furniture it holds. So the grouping has room, and the rug has a visible boundary that reads as chosen rather than accidental. Leave 12 to 18 inches of bare floor between the rug's edge and the wall, and the floor frames the rug the way a margin frames text on a page. Crowd it to the baseboard, and the room feels like a carpet someone ran out of courage to install. These aren't design opinions. They're the geometry of how a room reads. There's a proportion relationship worth understanding precisely. A rug should be roughly 2/3 the length of the longest sofa it anchors. When it drops toward half the sofa's length, the furniture starts to feel unsupported. The ends of the sofa project beyond the rug's logic, and the grouping loses its edges. This isn't about the rug looking right in isolation. It's about whether the eye, traveling from the sofa to the coffee table to the chairs and back, reads a bounded zone or an open field. A correctly sized rug closes that circuit. The eye finds the edge of the rug, and the room within the room becomes legible. What a rug also does, which almost nobody talks about when they're choosing one, is change how a room sounds. A large wool rug under a full seating arrangement absorbs a conversation differently than bare oak boards. Sound drops into it. The room gets quieter in a way that's physical, not imagined. Wool fibers have varied diameters and different crimps along each strand, which allows them to absorb sound across a range of frequencies rather than deflecting it uniformly the way a hard surface does. Testing has shown that wool carpet can reduce airborne noise by nearly half. In practice, this means that a room with a properly sized wool rug and lined curtains and upholstered pieces has a quality of quiet that a room with bare floors and hard surfaces simply can't replicate. Conversations settle into the room rather than bouncing across it. People lower their voices without knowing why. The room feels more private than it is. This is one reason why the choice of pile matters as much as the choice of pattern. A hand-knotted rug, wool pile tied around a cotton or wool foundation, knot by knot, has a density at the surface that a machine-made rug doesn't reach. Draw your hand across the pile against the direction of the weave, and there's a resistance, a weight to it, as if the surface has been compressed by intention. That density is structural. A tightly knotted wool rug on a good foundation can absorb decades of foot traffic without losing its bones. The pile compresses and softens in the places where feet pass most often, but the foundation holds. The rug doesn't fail, it becomes a record. The aging of a hand-knotted rug is worth understanding because most people are afraid of it. and shouldn't be. Vegetable dyes, the pigments derived from madder root, indigo, pomegranate, are processed in small, open batches. No two batches are chemically identical. The same red from the same recipe, dyed 1 month apart, will absorb slightly differently into wool from different sheep, or wool processed in water with a different mineral content, or wool dried in a different humidity. When a weaver runs out of one batch and begins the next, the new yarn carries a slightly different tone, sometimes barely visible, sometimes a clear horizontal shift across the field of the rug. In Persian and Turkish weaving, this variation has a name, abrash, from the Farsi for cloud-like, and that name is exactly right. The color lifts and settles across the surface the way light moves across a clouded sky. Not uniform, not random, but shifting with a logic that seems natural rather than designed. The abrash in an old sultanabad, the soft horizontal bands of rose deepening to burgundy across what should be a single field, reads in certain afternoon light, as if the rug is still in motion, as if the dye is still deciding. That quality deepens over decades. The vegetable-dyed wool doesn't fade to nothing the way synthetic pigment does. The color softens, harmonizes, the different lots moving slowly toward each other across the years. An old rug with real abrash in it is doing something a new uniformly dyed rug cannot do. It's showing you that it was made by hand, in time, by someone who ran out of one batch of color and started another. The variation is a record of the making, and that record makes the room feel like something happened there before you arrived. The sultanabad and serapi weavings of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, large workshop carpets from the Arak region of Persia, were produced in room-sized formats precisely because Western buyers had begun to understand what a correctly sized floor covering could do to a reception room. These weren't decorative objects placed on a floor. They were floors. The scale was the point. A 12x18 serapi in a room of proportional scale doesn't read as furniture. It reads as architecture. The pattern, a large angular medallion, border repeats in deep rose and ivory, and the particular faded blue that only indigo dye achieves under decades of light, becomes part of the room's structure. The seating group arranged on it is inside something, not on top of something. That distinction is felt before it's understood. Choosing a rug after the furniture is placed, measuring the actual footprint of the grouping, finding the outer edge of every piece, and working out from there, produces a different result than choosing a rug from a photograph and hoping it scales. The photograph doesn't tell you how the rug will sit against the specific oak boards of a specific floor. And it doesn't tell you how the rose in the border will respond to the cognac leather of a club chair placed 12 inches from its edge, or how the ground color will read against the plaster wall at 7 in the evening when the lamp comes on. Those relationships only exist in the actual room, in the actual light, with the actual furniture. A rug that looks resolved in a showroom may float entirely in the room it was bought for. Too small, too bright, too uniform. While a rug that looks faded and slightly worn on a dealer's floor may be exactly what a room needs to stop restlessly rearranging itself and finally hold still. The rooms that get this right almost never got it right on the first try. The first rug was too small, or the right size but the wrong weight. Too flat, too tight a weave, not enough pile to anchor the chairs that sit on it, or the right size and weight, but the wrong family of color, so the rug competed with everything rather than settling beneath it. Getting the rug right is often the last thing to happen in a room that's been worked on for years, and when it happens, the room stops asking to be adjusted. The furniture knows where it is, the sound drops, the light finds the pile in the late afternoon, and the abrash shifts slightly, the rose warming and the ivory lifting. And the room has a quality that was always available and just needed one decision made correctly before everything else could follow it.